Cobiah was halfway across the deck when the ship jolted beneath his feet. Caught by surprise, Cobiah fell toward the gunwale and skidded precariously toward the Indomitable's edge. With one arm wrapped around the bundle, he grabbed desperately for the central mast. The ship was shuddering violently, boards protesting in high-pitched shrieks, and there was a horrible crunching sound from the rudder at her stern. The ship pitched again, and Cobiah's hand slipped on the damp wood. Toppling down across the deck, Cobiah crashed painfully into the butt of one of the massive cannons. He desperately grabbed for its iron cap, wrapping his legs around the gun and holding on for dear life. Other sailors, not so lucky, were cast out into the sea. Cobiah could hear men screaming beyond the gunwale. With a lurch and a groan of her arched keel, the Indomitable righted herself in the waves. Water splashed onto the deck in huge swells, toppling over the sides of the ship as the galleon settled into the ocean once more. Cobiah lifted his head and tried to ascertain what had happened. Had the ship hit the rocks? Was the bottom of the ship torn, taking on water that could drown them all? Fingers of stone towered above the ship to either side, pointed tips clawing toward a gray, boiling sky. Yet they were still distant. The ship couldn't have struck one. Cobiah glanced over the lip of the deck and saw only deep blue ocean, no sign of reef or coral. That only left one answer. If they hadn't hit anything, then something big, must have hit them. The human kingdoms of Ascalon and Crida had been fighting this time since 1013 AE. It was the third time that these two kingdoms had gone to war, but was the first time the kingdom of Ur had been dragged into the fighting as well. These were known as the Guild Wars. The Third Guild War came to an abrupt end when the Searing and Char invasion occurred. The Flame Shamans led a massive three-pronged attack against the human nations on the Tyrian continent, Ascalon, Crida, and Ur. Ascalon had been part of the Char homelands where the humans had pushed them back and erected the Great Northern Wall to keep the Char from their cities. The Norn, who lived in the Shiver Peaks, had allowed the Char to pass through their mountains in order to attack the humans directly. In Crida, the Char were pressing their advantage over the humans until Saul D'Alessio returned from his exile, bringing the Unseen Ones and saving Crida. He formed the White Mantle, and the humans and the Unseen Ones worked together to prevent catastrophe. Ascalon was not so lucky. The Char had brought a weapon given to them by their gods, the Titans, called the Cauldron of Cataclysm. Using the cauldron, the Char rained fiery crystals across Ascalon, destroying the cities of Rin, Sirmia, and Ascalon City. This is now known as the Searing. The Char continued their assault on Ascalon, which only ended with the foe fire nearly 2 years later. Meanwhile, the Char were pressing on to Ur. On the shores of Ur, the Char overpowered the humans and were threatening to take the city of Ara, the home to the gods before the Exodus. In the city, Vizier Kilbron located a scroll that had been hidden away by the 5 gods. He stole it from Ara and took it back to his tower. When he read from the scroll, the nation of Ur burned, crumbled, and fell away into the sea. This is now known as the Cataclysm. Very few survivors made it out, and those that did fled to Crida. However, those that didn't make it perished alongside the Char. The Bay of Sirens was now host to a small set of islands that used to be the Orion Peninsula. Corsairs pillaged and lived there, escaping Istan. With the events of the Cataclysm, Crichton sailors had then renamed the bay to the Sea of Sorrows. Cobiah was a young man living in Lion's Arch with his abusive and alcoholic mother and his 4-year-old sister Bivy. He worked at a local tavern but took on jobs around the docks, loading and unloading the ships traveling back and forth to Cantha. After loading the ship the Indomitable, he rushed to work, where he was then fired. Cobiah went home, greeted by Bivy, where she tells him that her mother punished her doll Paula after Bivy had a nightmare and woke up screaming. Cobiah ensures that Bivy was not also punished. To help Bivy feel better, Cobiah points out the Indomitable and tells her that he was looking out a porthole while loading the ship and saw a mermaid swim by. He then gives her a coin, tells her to go get breakfast, and asks a friend, Rami, to look after her. After getting home, his mother takes the money he earned from helping out on the docks and then berates him for giving a coin to Bivy so that she could eat. He took her yelling and name-calling, even her abuse, to protect his sister, knowing that if he fought back, she would only take it out on Bivy. While his mother was hitting him and yelling at him, Rami had returned, calling out for Cobiah. He left the house, running outside, following Rami down to the docks, Rami telling him that he only took his eyes off Bivy for a second, and that she rushed to the docks. When Cobiah made it there, he was stopped and told that he didn't want to see what had happened. He told the men that it was his sister, and was then assured that her end was quick after slipping from a pylon on the dock. The priest there helped Cobiah make quick arrangements, and then Cobiah picked up the doll and went over to the Indomitable. With no reason to stay, Cobiah boarded the Indomitable and set sail for Cantha. Cobiah quickly began to feel at home on the ship and was thinking of a long-term future on the Indomitable. He worked hard, he made friends and enemies of the crew, and learned about himself. In 2 trips to Cantha, he'd gotten off the ship to explore Kyning City, but when they docked in Lion's Arch, he never left the ship. 10 months into his travel with the crew of the Indomitable, the ship received word from King Bede to see why ships were disappearing over the sunken lands of Or. When close to Malcor's fingers, the Maw attacked the ship, nearly ripping into the hull. After ensuring the hull wasn't breached, Cobiah returned to the deck just in time to see a massive wave strike the ship. Cobiah climbed to the top of the mast and found that the sunken land of Or had risen, sending out a tidal wave in all directions. The wave hit the ship and the Indomitable was lost. Cobiah woke on a Char ship, a pillar raised as a weapon. Sycox, the Char, reasoned with Cobiah and offered him a place on the ship, the Havoc. Cobiah tried to tell Sycox about what he saw before the Indomitable was lost, but the Char thought it was a fevered dream, especially when Cobiah mentioned that there were people in the land and in the water. Cobiah then learns that the Char have powered their ships with engines, making them faster and less reliant on wind or rowing. He learns many things about the Char, about how they are different from humans, but also how they are similar. After a short while, Cobiah bonds with his new crew, and they all go from wanting to kill each other to killing to protect each other. After returning to Lion's Arch, they find the city flooded. Unbeknownst to them, the entire coastline has been flooded, the city of Lion's Arch lost, as well as the Canthan city Kyning. The land of Or was pushed back to the surface as the elder dragon of shadow and death, Zaitan, rose beneath the land. Zaitan also rose the dead and the corsairs that were living on the smaller landmasses, turning them all into mindless undead. The elder dragon used these undead to pilot his undead ships, attacking the Crichton and Tarnished coastlines to check their defenses. The humans had moved further inland, setting up a new capital in the province of Shamor, Divinity's Reach. Contact with Cantha and Alona was completely cut off, as every ship that was sent out did not return, or if it did, it was full of undead. Cobiah was now considered a traitor to the humans as he was actively working with Char, captaining a ship, the Pride. Cobiah was happy with the Pride until he learned of a faster ship called the Capricorn. It was a legend that an Istani jinn inhabited the ship, casting an enchantment on it to make it faster. Cobiah and his crew attempted to steal the ship while it was docked in Port Stoward, where he confirmed this legend to be true. It was also here that Cobiah met Izaye, who was also attempting to steal the Capricorn. Both were thrown off the ship by the jinn that enchanted it. During the hijack attempt, an armada of undead ships, led by the Indomitable, attacked Port Stoward. The undead destroyed the port, adding members to their ranks via the villagers that were unable to escape and the ships in port that they had sunk. The Pride got away after trying to save Watch Commander Piedra, but she was lost when the dock crumbled beneath her. The crew of the Pride watched as Port Stalwart burned and the ship sank into the Sea of Sorrows. Find out what happens next in the next episode of the Archon Chronicles. This video contains information that can be played through in Guild Wars Prophecies and read about in the novel Sea of Sorrows. For information about the Third Guild War, the Searing, the Faux Fire, and Prince Veric's trek through the Shiver Peaks, check out Guild Wars Prophecies. To learn more about the Rising of War, Cobiah Marriner, and the Fall of Port Stalwart, check out Sea of Sorrows by Ree Soesbee. Thanks for watching this episode of the Archon Chronicles. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe to help with the channel and to be notified when new videos come out. Want even more Guild Wars 2 content? I stream on Twitch 4 times a week. Find me on Twitch and Instagram at AngelWriter428. I'll see you in the next episode.